All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Helm Developer Call, March the 6th, 2025. Tonight, this call is recorded, so if you don't want to appear on camera, please turn your camera off. And the call also follows the CNCF Code of Conduct, so please be polite. Quick logistical question before we start. Is anybody able to take notes today? Okay, if someone can jot
Do
down
note takers have to
something,
be core members
No.
or
No, anyone can take notes.
okay. I'm not volunteering today, but I'll volunteer another time.
okay, awesome. Right, announcements. Karen, please sign up for shifts.
I don't think anyone
Oh.
signed up to do notes just now.
Not yet.
We have to run
I'll
early.
go
so
ahead
I
and do it. I just won't be very good at it. If anyone can help contribute, that would be great.
I'll help with notes, but I'm also terrible at it.
Yeah, okay. We can tag team.
all
Yeah,
right,
it
the
was
first.
hopefully someone
Okay.
would. But yeah, for
I
the announcement, who's Karen, please. Sorry.
Yeah, I went ahead and made the spreadsheet. So if any of y'all are interested in helping at the Helm booth at KubeCon, we have a project booth in the sponsor hall, like in the project pavilion. So it'll mostly be the second half of each day. So there's just a Google Sheet. I think you all can just directly edit it. But those are the time slots that were assigned. I've kind of just shifted them into mostly 2-hour blocks. So please sign up if you can help. Just make sure you check the notes section. We do have like 2 official Helm talks. So I've noted them. One is on Wednesday and one is on Thursday. Um, probably like in 2 weeks or so, or like as we get this filled out, I'll send out calendar invites as well. But that's mainly it. Please sign up. Let me know if you have any questions, and that's it. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you, Karen. Yeah, I won't be able to sign up because I can't make it. But yeah, everybody else who can, please. Right, moving on. Discussion, unless there's any other announcements. Nothing to add for Helm 4 progress, Max. Sit you on the spot. Okay, we'll go to, I think that's not quite there. So, Scott, if you want to, you've got the feature audit updates, audit, install and upgrade, issue feedback.
Yeah, I have another thing to put on here. That's just what I was kind of like busy doing, but I'll try to get to that before the next one. Yeah, so okay, so this is mainly just highlighting that I gave feedback to the summary issue that you made, Matt. About that, I thought it was well, it seems like not only I, but several of us thought you made good points there. And that HIP is going to be updated. I know because I now work with Evan, so he's told me. But it's really just an update saying I gave some feedback, and I think that your concern I believe has been addressed already in the sense that
So it's ready for a re-review?
I believe it is
Then
not
I'll
fully
try and get a
ready.
look at it in the next few days and add to and take a look at it.
Yeah, it's not fully ready for re-review. I would just say that since you made a separate issue that I think summarizes that and the other one, I just wanted to check in at least about the concern that you had and simply get on the same page mainly about if your concern was primarily for cross-chart orchestration, as in not outside of the scope of like saying being able to sequence like the dependencies of a single chart.
I think it's more the use case because we're talking
Yeah.
very technical. Oh, we're going to do this and this and this, but a user comes in and they're going to
Yeah.
try to figure out what is it I need to do now. How does it help me solve the problem? right?
Yep, yep.
And you've got to think about, is this within a single sandbox? Is this multiple different things in separate sandboxes? Because as of today, you take a chart and all of its dependencies, they're in a single sandbox, which is the reason for aliasing, and sometimes
Yep, yep.
people run into collisions. So how do we want to go about doing this and the complexities of it? What's the actual underlying problem that needs to be solved? And what's a good way to go forward with that? And I think there were a couple of discussions on it, but what we
Yep,
kept coming to was, here's what we want to do, but not why. And I think because there's different ways of solving it, understanding that why means we can focus on the user experience as well. And that's where I was getting at. So I'll go take a look at the issue again.
Okay.
Did
Yeah,
we detail the
that sounds
why
great.
in it?
Yeah, I believe the HIP already describes that part has been updated.
Okay.
In fact, I think the HIP may be ready to re-review. I just had some concerns about whether the concept of layers was really necessary to add to that, or if it was just fine for resources within the same chart to be able to say they depend on one or more of the other resources, like explicitly, as opposed to like, giving them a name like a layer. That was my
Yeah,
only feedback, but
yeah, and the user experience here for the problem being solved is really where I'll probably personally knit the most,
cool.
because it's easy to come up with an idea that turns out to be very complicated for end users. And what's the problem they're trying to solve? So I'll
Exactly.
go take a look at it again and poke at
Okay.
it. But
And here's my comment, basically. I'll just send it here so that at least the scope pieces are that you mentioned initially, I think, are addressed in that way. And if you
Okay.
agree with my summary on the scope part of that comment, then I think at least we can. I don't have anything else to discuss here.
Yeah, I'll have to dig into the issue and
Okay.
the HIP again.
The only thing I would like to contribute here quickly is I don't think we should use annotations. I think the HIP proposed annotations because that was the only thing available in Charts v2, but annotations are a pretty crummy way of trying to build a DAG of things to install.
They are.
Hmm.
We could move it to a whole new property in the new version of Charts, and that's where it would end up going. And so,
Well, I think the question though is about the resource order, like the ability for resources to be ordered within the same chart. I also don't know if annotation if they are the best, but I don't know if there is a better one. So that's the question. If
well, no, instead of an annotation, you do another property. But there's a bunch of different
I
ways
see.
that we could do it. So we'll go take a look. Yeah, we can go take a look at the
Yeah,
HIP.
I don't want to go into the details of how, but I just don't think annotations are
Got it.
better ways than annotations. But anyway,
Cool. Did you add that? Did you add that on the HIP feedback, George? Just out of curiosity, or should I?
I added it on the issue.
Okay. Got it.
But I can.
I'll look at the two of them. I think we can probably move on because I'm not going to do this work in line. I don't remember enough. You all don't need to wait on me.
Sounds
Righty.
good. Thank you.
Scott, your name is there a second time? Did you have something else, or
I'm gonna put it at the end after Ingi's.
okay? Ingi, then the floor is yours. Helm Wise update and Wisdom update.
Yeah, so
Helm Wise rather. Sorry.
so I had a talk with Butcher a couple weeks ago, and then I just kind of an intro talk, which went good. And he was excited about what he read about Wise and and Helm Wise. I think I mentioned that before. So we scheduled another talk to do a walkthrough with on Helm Wise, which I wanted to show him in more detail. And then he talked to, do you guys know Till, T-I-L-L from Germany? He's never mind, he's a WASM guy, sorry. I got my projects mixed up. Anyway, he's like one of the major Fermion developers, and he's like, they got really interested in Wise and wanted to schedule a meeting with the three of us. And so then to prep for that, I deep dived into Wise or into WASM and found that there's really a lot of crossover between Wise and WASM. And then I had the call with those guys yesterday, and I think the gist of it, I mean, I'll tell more as it comes, but I think for sure Wise should be able to consume WASM modules or plugins. I think they call them modules .wasm files. So that means anything, that whole ecosystem would not be available to Wise, and thus Helm Wise. The other thing is, and I think this might be more important, is I've been looking at WASM GC, which is what is needed for certain languages to be compiled, including Wise. Oh, let me, just for people who don't know what Wise is, sorry, just screwed that up. Um, I'll just paste the link in the chat there of what Wise is. So, and you'll find Helmwise in there too. It looks like it's just around the corner from GraalVM, from Oracle, who's been naysaying about WASM for years now, and then they finally like, oh yeah, WASM's cool. We'll support it. So that would mean that that Wise itself could be compiled to WASM hopefully soon. So, which I monitor it, and it didn't look like it was coming anytime soon, but they said it was really close. So that's good news. And the other thing is I'm going to have a slot with Scott this afternoon to finally go through Helmwise with him and see, what it needs to do next, and before I present it to the rest of you guys. So that's the update.
Nice. Yeah, getting YAML script interpreter compiled into WASM would go a long way for beating it into Helm, just because I mean that's the advantage of WASM.
Yes and no. I mean, it would be great, and I think it would be good for Helm, but I don't. Is Helm 4 really going to depend on WASM being integrated tightly or needed for the plugin system?
We'll have to wait and see what we're able to get done in time. Part of this is also, is this going to be a plugin or part of Charts v3, right? Like, could we embed an engine right in the chart at the version that's tested and that be fine? So it's not a system plugin, but a chart plugin. I think that's still yet to be determined, but it is one of the things we've talked about, is making it an element of the chart itself. So while we don't have a full WASM strategy worked out in any way, it's still being poked at. It is one of those possibilities and something I would like to see. So if it could be compiled in .wasm, that would be pretty cool. And there is a WASM runtime that is pure Go, which means we could use it so that way it could be.
What's it called? Right, I just been playing with the Rust one, which is a WASM time.
WA0.
WA0.
Yeah, as in I'll stick it in the Zoom chat.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, and this is designed so we could pull it in as a dependency into Helm and then use it inside of Helm's Go code, because it doesn't rely on anything on the system that needs to be transported, no shared system module, which means it's portable enough we could embed it in Helm and run it everywhere. And that's an important thing for us just for the install experience. But we still do need a strategy around it, and I'm not going to look at this one until I get Charts v3 worked out, which I'm still playing with. A little slower than I would like while I'm doing presentations.
Well, when you do get into WASM, sync with me and see where I'm at.
Sounds good.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Ingy. Yeah, and as Matt said, we're still working on how to incorporate WASM plugins into Helm, but if it was available, then what I would foresee or hope for is that YAML script would just be an engine that Helm could use to render charts, so no post render are needed via WASM.
We definitely want to. I mean,
in the future,
it works now as a post renderer, so there's nothing to do for Helm 4 if you wanted it to only be a post render. Yeah, I think the whole point of me being here and pushing it forward is to get it more tightly integrated. So
nice
in the best way. But also, if I can help out with WASM in general, that would be pretty cool.
Take a look at the Scott's. Well, I guess Scott's in mine, but Scott has been sticking all the text on it. Hip, which draft hip, draft PR hip.
Scott can take me through it this afternoon when we get together.
Awesome.
Good idea.
Good idea. I'll keep us moving.
All right.
Scott.
It's a nice segue.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So essentially, please look at the hip, everyone. There's, we're still working through some of the questions. George, the things that we talked about yesterday, I moved to open questions. I commented out some of the not fully integrated list that you made, for example. It's still in there. and moved the pieces of it that we discussed that you had in there to open questions. So for example, I don't know if it's worth sharing my screen or I think so.
You'll go for it.
I don't know if that's really, it's actually super helpful, but basically like under open issues, there are the open issues section from our HIP template. There are, the very first one is, or the first and second are what George and I talked about yesterday, basically about how strong we could, like when adopting a security, when thinking about the security implications of introducing a new plugin system, we do have to think about a few things. And there's a whole security implication section that addresses those and how each piece is addressed. One thing to note is that with the idea of chart-defined plugins, ultimately people would be running third-party code if there are plugins that are not written by Helm core, right? It's on one hand, it's not super different from a chart made by written by naughty chart author or malicious chart author, for example. A lot of people do run install charts without actually inspecting the charts. Also, you can install charts from a tarball, which is how it's normally done, which might actually be different from the code if people did just look at the source code. So those are not super different from the issue of a compiled like WASM binary, except that there are just different ways of people being able to validate, to have, to validate that it is what it says it is and to inspect it. So those are addressed, and the open issue, the main one to think about, I think it's probably worth reading, not worth, it's probably important to read the HIP before like really giving feedback on it, so please do. But the summary is that we could take there's a range of how strong we could be with this during the development and before process of the plugin system and before there's a full security a fully vetted secure distribution system in place between I'm not really going to get into the details of it because they're already in the HIP, but between like enforcing that we require signing, for example, and strongly encouraging it and then surfacing ones that aren't or adding an insecure flag to be able to bypass it and things like that. So that stuff is all written in there, but I just wanted to note that that part came from a discussion that George and I had the other day. And just to highlight that piece of it. But please, look at the open questions if folks can read it, look at the open questions, and please give feedback.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. I know this, but if anybody else has any comments, floor is yours. Yeah, please read the HIP as Scott says. I do think plugins will help extend Helm greatly, and make Helm give a lot more utility to the community without Helm having to encode everybody's behavior, which it can't, frankly. So yeah, to keep on moving on, I have these two HIPs as well. Thanks, Joe, for server-side apply comments. I did address those. And another HIP to allow CRDs to be updated post the original install by appending only. So appending only means that we can guarantee that we won't run afoul of basically breaking users. I think so. It will allow. So it's a big pain point for Helm users currently today that you can't modify CRDs post installation. And or you can by sending the chart, but that sticks you back into unsafe behavior. So this is a nice solution, I think, for Helm managing CRDs. If anybody wants to take a look and comment, and then server-side apply, I think would also be it's probably time that Helm takes on server-side apply. Just need to get that hip over the line.
Oh, I have one more question I didn't put on the discussion list yet, but I'll do it. Just that there's an open PR for that Austin wrote. I looked at it pretty in depth. We also, you know, he had also found through that process a bug that was introduced earlier in an earlier unrelated PR, and I reviewed it. Matt reviewed it. Matt merged it. But now here's the PR to introduce case status. So we need one more maintainer review, and I tried to summarize a bunch of stuff. So
Yeah, I'll try to review it with something big like this.
Yeah.
We have to make sure we pull it down. We manually test it. We can't just rely on the automated test, which found with the other one that recently got fixed. Because sometimes things act screwy where we don't have full integration tests with Kubernetes. And so we do have to actually run tests on some of this stuff and walk through it. So I can try and pull it down. It'll take a few days for me to get through it, but I'll carve out some time for this one because I'm interested in seeing it go in.
Yep. One, shout out to Scott, who gave me like a bunch of context, really walked through the PR with me, spent a bunch of time. Really appreciate that. And then two, I added a comment in the PR linking to a repo that goes over the practical examples and implementations of several different charts and how that affects it. So that should serve as, somewhat of a basis.
Oh,
at
I will
least of, like,
definitely go read all of that because I do. So don't worry. I read the code. I look it over.
Sweet,
That's why it
sweet.
takes me a while with the large ones because I test it, I read the code, I look at all that stuff.
Yeah, much appreciated. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Oh, there is one other note about that, Matt. When you do, you'll see that a few Flux packages are added in this, and there is a comment that I unresolved to make sure that that context stays there as to why. Very, very interested in your thoughts on this. It's mainly about because of some the case status, the project that the case status package is part. Sorry, that case status is part of the SIG CLI utilities, which I'm sure you probably know, maybe more than other people, Matt, because of like your involvement with like Kubernetes SIGs. It's pretty unmaintained. It's a Google project. Generally, they're way behind on Kubernetes releases almost always. Even critical fixes are usually only given attention if they directly impact, like say a KPT or something like that. And so that's why Flux maintains a fork, and that's the reason. And you'll see in my what is it, in my open comment about the reasoning, but just to highlight that as to why, because that may raise an eyebrow at first. I think our other option is to like vendor all of those things and maintain our own fork of that, which I kind of suggest we don't, because they're already doing it and they are good at keeping up with the Kubernetes updates.
Okay. No, I'll
but
take a look at it. I'll take a look at it. In the interest of time, though, we should probably hand it back to George to deal with assignments.
Thanks.
Yep. Yes, Mona, I added one more thing to the agenda. It's not super important. It's just adding shuffle to tests. If anybody disagrees with this, we can talk about it next week.
With
but
what
still
to the
draft PR.
test?
Dash shuffle. So when go test runs, it seems to run with a deterministic random seed and doesn't
Yep.
and runs
No,
tests in
that's a good idea.
deterministic order. Okay.
One of the things you're also going to find, and we have to fix somewhere in there, is we do have when they don't run in the deterministic manner, or there are some problems in our tests. So
Yep,
this will
already.
start highlighting some testing issues that expect that deterministic order, which would be really good to get fixed.
Okay. So yeah, this PR is already failing. It's drafted still because it's found those. So I'm going to start fixing those tests.
Yeah.
And
there are race conditions as well, as Austin points out in there. There actually are race conditions.
okay. Interesting time. So heads up, there'll be some test fixes coming. I guess is the takeaway there. We'll do assignments for next call. Would anybody like to do moderator?
You can put me down as moderator for next time. I haven't done it in a while.
Excellent.
I'll take myself with notes, which I'll probably do a poor job of doing, but give it a go.
And
Issue
I'll do
triage,
PR reviews this week as well. I've been doing that.
likewise.
Same.
Issue triage. I can take a look. I might not have much time, but if
I have been
If you
doing a
guys
little
can-
bit of that as well, so I can go through and make a pass every few days.
awesome, thank you, Matt. And I should be here next week. It sounds like Matt will be ready. Anything else before we finish up?
I'll be
Okay.
here too next week.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Alrighty. Thanks everyone, and speak next week if not before. Good.